Welcome. We are Neil,
Luke and Dave.
340-somethings reminiscing on the runners and riders of 90s guitar music.
We look at the bands who soundtracked our youth on both sides of the pond and interview some of our heroes from the bands that defined a generation.
You'll hear about the good, the bad and the ugly of 90s guitar music.
This podcast is stupid and contagious. Hello and welcome to the Stupid and Contagious Podcast stroke rock and roll true stories episode. This is episode 52 of the Stupid and Contagious Podcast. It's just me on my own. Luke's in out of Mongolia or something, and he's on holiday somewhere else. So yeah, this is another one of I call it August interview special. Luke called it a summer special, I think, but just the ones where it's just us individually with an interview. In September, we'll be back to normal services with Dave talking his nonsense and us all just talking nonsense before and after the interviews. This week, I am talking to Sid from Rock and Roll True Stories. Now, Rock and Roll True Stories, it's a channel on YouTube and basically does what it says on the tin. He puts together these really cool videos of rock and roll true stories, and he does like history of videos and all that sort of thing. I love that sort of thing. Obviously, this is a 90s podcast. He does a lot of music from the 90s, bands from the 90s, a lot of grunge bands, and EMF. There's one on Jesus Jones, I think. So, there's some British bands on there as well. So, yeah, we thought we'd get him on because I really like his channel. We thought this was a good time to bring him on. He's a lovely guy. Sid, his name is. If you've come over from Sid's Rock and Roll True Stories YouTube channel, then please do subscribe to our channel and give it a thumbs up. Leave us a comment below. Let us know your favourite rock and roll true story from Sid's catalogue. Yeah, just subscribe to our channel while you're here. We'd really appreciate it. We're a 90s podcast. We talk about 90s guitar music, indie bands, grunge bands from the 90s. There's an interview with Roddy Bottom on there. There's interviews with James from EMF. Jesus Jones is on there. Pop Will Eat Itself. A lot of British bands, but a lot of American bands. We're trying to get more American bands on. So please do listen to us on iTunes and find us there, or wherever you listen to your podcast, we'll be there. So we're trying to make our channel a bit more transatlantic. If you've come over to Sid's channel from the Stupid and Contagious Podcast, then obviously do the same thing. Subscribe to his channel. I'm sure he'll really appreciate it. He's got some really cool videos coming out and it's a really cool channel. So definitely do that. So this is part 2. To watch part 1, follow the link in the description below and it will take you to the Stupid and Contagious Podcast YouTube channel where you can watch the first half of the interview and come back here for the second part. But this is my chat stroke interview with Sid from Rock and Roll True Stories. Enjoy.
That one I had written a long I feel like I feel kind of indifferent towards Bon Jovi, but I feel like some of those videos are
we don't mind them. Like they were all right for a bit. They did some good.
Did you
stuff.
watch the Bon Jovi documentary that came out, the 40th year on Disney Plus? I started watching it. I haven't finished watching it yet.
The Bon Jovi, yeah, we don't mind Bon Jovi on this channel. Like, when they released like Keep the Faith and all that sort of stuff, it was all right, wasn't it?
You know what? I was gonna do a story on Keep the Faith because it was kind of like put out during the height of grunge, and there was a bunch of interviews Bon Jovi
right, it
did.
was. Yeah, it was.
There was a bunch of interviews he did where he was asked about grunge, and he kind of, I think from what I remember, he put it down. I was like, I need to do a story on this. This is kind of like Bon Jovi's answer to grunge. So I'm like, maybe I should. It's on my list to do. I feel like there's so many stories, and you brought up Bon Jovi. I do really like. I know some people hate glam metal. I kind of have a soft spot for glam metal. It's kind of like,
I don't mind it.
Shut off your brain and you just kind of enjoy it. And then I like a lot of those bands, or their songs I like from that era. So I've covered a bunch of those bands, but I know there's more I could probably do. Like
I've done a video called Bon Jovi Kidnapped Michael Jackson's Chimp.
Yeah, so I did that one. Yeah, there was two.
Is that a true story?
Yeah, there's the one thing that's kind of weird though is like there's two slightly different versions of the story. So like you run into that. It's like It's not, you don't know which one. So I think I said in the video, I'm like,
Yeah.
there's two slightly different versions, but remember he had bubbles
Yeah, I
that
remember
should,
Bubbles. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
it's not clear how Michael Jackson got bubbles. Some people think he got them from like a
It was,
research lab or something. And
he
Bon
did a lot of
Jovi,
weird shit, you
yes,
know.
I love Michael Jackson. Like I grew up on, his
Yeah.
records too.
Yeah.
Um, Mostly because my brother was playing them, but so yeah, so they were in Japan together at the same time. And Bon Jovi was a huge star because Slippery When Wet came out. But then Michael Jackson's
Mm.
like a different level of star, right? He's even
Yeah.
more popular.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. He was, yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember which city they were in, but they were somewhere and staying in the same hotel on different floors. And somehow the members of Bon Jovi invited Michael Jackson to come party, but Michael was like he was like really professional in the sense that he was like very focused on the show. He had to, get enough sleep and whatever. So I think Bubbles somehow found his way downstairs with members
Yeah.
of Bon Jovi. They partied with him um yeah, and then they ended up returning Bubbles after I think they told Michael like unless he comes, we're going to kidnap Bubbles or something along those lines. I did that story like 5 months ago or something, but
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
remember
No, I
something
like
like
that. I like that.
yeah, that whole story with it. I remember when Michael Jackson went to meet the mayor of some Japanese city and Bubbles showed up, and it was just so odd. He's just like he's sitting here meeting with his there's a chimpanzee
It's
next
just
to him.
mad, isn't it? You think about it now, it's mad. What's the Steve Adler kidnap story as well, while we're on the subject of kidnap? What was that all
Yeah,
about?
that one was well, I mean, Steven Adler, it's no secret. I mean, he had a huge all the members of Guns N' Roses minus Axl had like serious drug addiction issues.
Yeah,
And that
say
one this
that.
story I did a while back. I think it was after he left Guns N' Roses, after he was fired. I mean, his brother, I thought, staged like a kidnapping to get him clean or something. Because I mean,
Mm.
he was struggling with addiction for God, for like maybe like till 2007
Yeah,
or so,
didn't
because
he
he went
didn't he
on
have a
Dr. Drew's
stroke?
show.
Didn't he have a stroke or something?
Yeah, he had a
Yeah.
stroke. That's why he talks the way he does, because he had a
Yeah, yeah, that's
stroke. And
right.
then
Yeah.
and then he went on Dr. Drew's like that celebrity rehab show. And then he was on
Mm.
Sober House. And I haven't read a lot about him lately, but I think he was doing better. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
during
I hope
the
so.
height of,
I hope so.
I hope he's a great drummer. He was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, he
I,
was
I,
fantastic.
I, I started to play drums, and I mean, hearing him, I mean, Appetite was like one of my favorite. It is one of my favorite records. And I mean, when they reunited and they didn't bring back Steven or Matt, I was really bummed out.
Yeah, I mean they never got rid of Steve because he was a shit drummer, did they? They just got rid of him because he couldn't keep his shit together for long enough.
From what I understand, yeah. I mean, I thought Matt Sorum was a really good drummer too. I mean, I
Yeah,
like
yeah, he was
Steven's
cool.
playing better on those records, but I mean, Matt's
Yeah.
kind of like he's like everything. It almost sounds like a drum machine. It's like
Yeah, he's
there's
a bit more
records
formulaic. Yeah, yeah,
mechanical in a sense.
yeah.
Steven's kind of loose. I like Steven's drumming, but I remember seeing Frank play, and I'm not a fan of his drumming
Yeah,
during the
yeah,
live
yeah.
shows. I
Nice.
met him though. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah,
I ran
yeah,
into him
yeah.
because it was like the day of the first show I was going to see them, and my office was just right next to where some of the members were staying. And I'm like, that's Frank. So I didn't run into
Yeah.
Duff or any of those guys, but I ran into Frank. I got a picture with him. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, Guns N' Roses these days, it's more of a they have a lot of session musicians, really. It's not like the Guns N'
Yeah.
Roses of old
They
where it's about to fall to bits any second, you know what I mean?
I think they're coming to your neck of the woods now. I think Slash said they're playing some shows in I think 2025. So summer is
Yeah, I
usually
think
they play Europe in the summer, and they'll probably do some dates in North America too.
yeah, I haven't seen them since that 92 gig, and I think I might just leave it at that.
You know what? You're probably best to do it that at
I
that
think
way.
so, yeah. I think so.
I saw them. The best show I saw them in LA, which was seeing them on their home
Yeah.
turf was awesome. But I saw
Yeah.
them when they came to Edmonton, and they were great. It was honestly one of the best shows I saw. But then when I saw them
I
in Vegas, it
yeah.
was just they were tired.
Yeah, I'm sure they're still great, but yeah, there was just something about because I think we talk about it a lot on the podcast. A lot of music, it's not just the music, it's the historical context of when the music's out and stuff, it all sort of goes hand in hand, I think. So,
Yeah, the big concert we have coming this August, I think it's August, is I've never seen Metallica live. They're playing
right, right.
their back-to-back shows. I think there's still tickets available.
Yeah.
And they're one of my favorite bands too, but I think I'm on a different page with some people. I think Load is a really good record. I haven't
Yeah,
done a
yeah.
story. People hate that record. I don't think Reload's that great, and I'm not a fan of Saint Anger, but I was like, oh, maybe I should see if I can get some like last minute Metallica tickets because
Yeah.
I'm
See,
sure they
I,
put on a
I,
good show.
I always think that albums that divide opinion are sometimes the best ones because, it's good, isn't it? It's better to have people like it and hate it equally than people
Well,
just not bothered about it.
that's what good artwork is, right? It's like
Yeah, yeah,
it draws a
absolutely.
strong response from people.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm
that's
like,
what I
oh,
think.
maybe I'd love to go see Metallica
Yeah,
play,
just do
but
it.
the tickets are so expensive. Even the nosebleeds are
That's the thing
insanely
these days, isn't
expensive.
it? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
well, it
thing
was
these
either that or
days.
my wife wants to go see Avril Lavigne, which I'll admit I'm a fan of. I liked
That'd
her
be all right.
early works.
I don't mind
Yes.
Avril thing. She played
I
Glastonbury this year. It went down a storm.
did you go to any of the big festivals like Glastonbury or
No, I
Reading
didn't
or
go to any this year, but yeah, what Glastonbury's always on the telly here, so we get to watch it sort of in real time. Yeah, and
I just see
she
the
went down a
YouTube
storm.
clips and
Yeah, yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah, people just it was just
so
all
were you into
our
like
classic stuff.
you talk about like being into like the 90s. Were you like big into like the Britpop like the Oasis and
Oh
Blur
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
Suede and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we were heavily me and Luke and Dave to some extent. We followed a similar route. We were really into sort of the grunge scene, and then that kind of well, Kurt Cobain killed himself, and that kind of just sort of
Right.
killed it off. And then
Yeah.
instantly, Oasis exploded, and the whole Britpop scene, and we're off in that tangent. So yeah, we did a bit
Yeah,
of both.
I've done a few stories on Oasis, but I really love Oasis
Oh, they're great.
and then I mean I like some of the Blur stuff and so I feel like I haven't done enough stories on those guys. But do you think Oasis will ever reunite or it's just like kind of
I think so. Yeah. No, I think they will. I think they will.
yeah.
I'm not sure if they should,
There's
but I think they will.
yeah, well it's like I did a story on Skid Row this earlier this week
Yeah.
and it's like I feel like I'm just waiting for those guys to reunite. Like at some point there's gotta be enough money that they'll put aside their differences and be like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll
There's
play
some,
some shows.
I think most bands, there's always I'm not sure about REM because I saw an interview with them the other day and they were all together, but they seem quite adamant about not doing any more sort of
Yeah,
stuff together.
they played together. I thought some
Yeah,
songwriters
they
Hall of
did.
Fame
They
or they were
did
still
like
band.
a
Yeah,
few songs, but they were like, "That's it. We're not reforming. This is just a one-off sort of thing." And they seem quite sort of adamant about it. So I don't know.
yeah, because
We'll
I
see.
did a video on their breakup a couple months ago, and I feel like those guys just got tired of the whole record business,
They were
the
around for
labels and the
fucking ages,
commitments.
though, weren't they? Before they got
Yeah,
famous. That's the
they were yeah they were around for a long time, and then some people like
yeah.
on the video were like, I hated their mainstream stuff like out of time, and when they
Yeah.
got
See,
really big,
Luke.
but
Luke hates the early stuff. Luke, the other guy on the
oh
channel,
really?
he really fucking hates their early stuff with a passion.
It's
Yeah.
like any of those things. It's like some people like love a band, because they discover
Yeah.
them, and then when they get big, it's like it's just not the same. But I remember it kind of reminds me. I did a story on 100 this show. I don't know if it came in the UK, but on MTV they had 120 minutes, and like
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. I
120
think so. Yeah,
minutes
I think
was
so.
like in the 80s, 120 minutes was like where all like the outcasts of your high school or your school they'd be into that kind of music, like Cure, REM,
Yeah. Yeah.
all those alternative bands. And then, 90s come around and alternative rock becomes like huge. And then everybody starts liking that stuff. Even the
Yeah.
jocks who
Yeah.
used to, you go to school to were into that kind of music. So I feel like that's just normal. People discover something and then it becomes mainstream and they're
Yeah. I
just not
think
into it
so.
as much.
We talk
Yeah.
about Dave Grohl a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
We had decided that he's one of the nicest guys in rock, but you did do a video on him saying rock stars who hate Dave Grohl. So I can't
Yeah.
believe
There's some
anyone
people who have
hates him.
feuded.
Huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's people who've always like feuded with them, but some people he's made up with. Like Ian, I love
Yeah,
The Cult is another band I'm really into.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, him and Ian Astbury, he said some pretty shitty things about The
Oh,
Cult, and
really?
then he basically said he went and saw them when they were doing I think the Beyond Good and Evil tour. He said he was like bored to death watching them play, and then he met Ian Astbury like sometime after that, and they kind of made up.
And no one
But
could be
and
nice all the time, can they?
Yeah, and then there was a feud he had with I think one of the guys from Guar called him out because like I
All
think
right.
they were getting.
Okay.
I mean, Dave is pretty overexposed. Like anytime you see an award show, it's like if Foo Fighters have a record, they'll be the band that's playing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. They've done well
I
in
will.
that respect.
I will say that documentary they did was really good. They did one in 2011 called Wasting Light. I think it's called
Yeah,
Wasting Light. Or no, it's called Back and Forth. It was like
yeah,
when they were promoting Wasting Light. And that's a really good documentary where they talk about the history of the band and that kind of stuff. And the first Foo Fighters drummer, he had a huge falling out with Dave. Like, Dave re-recorded his tracks, and you can actually go listen to the tracks that William Goldsmith did, and they don't sound that different from Dave's tracks. I mean, Dave's tracks sound better, but I mean, he still has like resentment against Dave, and I guess it's not unexpected.
It's going to happen. Drummers and drummers.
I think Dave.
I think he got lucky with Trav. What's it? I can't remember his name now.
Taylor Hawkins.
Yeah, Taylor. I was going to call him Travis. I knew it was such a wrong name. Yeah, Taylor Hawkins.
That was shocking to me when I woke up today and like heard that Taylor had passed away.
Oh, man, because it's another sad story, isn't it?
And they haven't talked to. Not much has come out about what he was going. I guess some of his friends talked about it, but like he seemed like he had his life together. Like he was working out. He was trying to stay in shape, and then it just happens.
People who seem like they got their shit together, it's often it's just that's the mask, isn't it?
Yeah, you never know what happens behind closed doors, right? It's just like you put on this facade, and then it's like it's not always like Amy Winehouse, where like Amy Winehouse was like in the public, it was in the press how much she was struggling, and then she passed away, and people were like, I'm not really surprised by that.
Nah, it's always a bit of a shock, but that was really sad actually. Placebo. You did something on their album cover. I didn't know anything about that. I'm a massive Placebo fan, and I didn't know anything about that cover. That was an interesting.
Yeah, there was. Man, that was a long time ago. I should do more on Placebo, because I mean they had a huge number of hits.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They sort of peaked really early, and then they're still around. They still sell out gigs and stuff.
See, I was
shows.
See, did you ever hear their cover of Kate Bush's "Running Up the Hill"? I think it's
brilliant. I love it.
My wife hated it. She's like, it's awful, and like, I'm like, no, this is a great cover.
Yeah,
they made it their own. But yeah, there was a story. I can't remember which Placebo album. It's the one with the kid, like kind of like
that's the first one. Yeah,
the first one. And so apparently, from what I remember, the kid had sued the band. I guess I'm trying to remember if they. A lot of the times, what happens with these cases where the cover model person sues the band, it's
I'm not a big fan of any of that. It's just their parents trying to cash in, I think, most of the time.
A lot of the times what happens is they claim that they didn't have the clearances to use the image. But in his case, I think from what I remember, he was claiming that he was bullied because he was on the cover, or being on the cover exacerbated and made things worse in his life or something. And from what I remember,
that's true.
I feel bad for these judges that have to like deal with this crap, like just dealing with these kind of, in the States, it's probably worse. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but the States seems like they litigate everything and dealing with these lawsuits. So
I see you for anything.
So that's the story. Honestly, I'm glad you mentioned, because I have like a note on my iPhone. I have like a note of like every single band out here on the radio. I'm like, I should look into that. Placebo is not on that list, but I should add that, because
but you did one on Richie from the Manics. We're massive Manics fans here.
You know what? I've got a story on the Manic Street Preachers done.
Have you?
Yeah, and
that'd be cool.
And I've got a story on the Manics coming up. It's done. It's just needs to be released. They were on Top of the Pops back in like 1994, before the Holy Bible came out.
Yeah,
they had done this. They were promoting their first single from the record, and their frontman, they'd all like dressed in military regalia. I guess they had been wearing like military regalia earlier in the year, but they had went on Top of the Pops and following a performance because their frontman was wearing like a balaclava.
That's right, balaclava. Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah. The BBC was like inundated with like 25,000 complaints over their performance. It was the most complaints they ever got, because people thought they were supporting the IRA.
Yeah, that was their.
And then, but then I read some of the forums on the Manics, and some people said it wasn't just that. There was like a couple serial killers going around at the time who wore a balaclava too, so they got in trouble for that. And so that story's coming. It's just a really short story, but I mean, I'm surprised that they've been around for a long time, and they've still like enjoyed like a good deal of success. But that story about Richie is just that's like another one. I was talking about the Pearl Jam fan who disappeared. There's no trace of him. The same with Richie. No trace of what happened to him.
Yeah, a lot of people just think he's sort of living it up in Goa, don't they? That's the story, that he's in Goa.
Yeah.
But who knows, Who knows?
I remember when I did that story, I found some old MTV News articles from like 1996, I think it was. And
Yeah.
some people are like, yeah, I saw Richie in Goa on vacation. And then
Yeah.
people will be like taking photos, but then when they go and develop the photos, it comes out blurry. So you would hear these
Yeah.
odd stories. And
Yeah.
if I had to guess, like if I had to bet money on where he is, I mean, he's probably living a normal life, maybe away from all the spotlight. But
Yeah,
you have to
maybe.
wonder how you support yourself. Like maybe he's wearing, like working an
And
odd
I
job
and
or
I
something.
I also think surely you would quite get in contact with your family. I don't know. Maybe he has. Who knows? We'll find out at some
Yeah.
point. And you've done a lot of videos on Jesus Jones EMF. We we we
Yeah.
we do. They were big over there, right? Or were they big in Canada as well as America?
I think they were probably similar. Like, yeah, Jesus Jones had that one big hit here. I don't think they had another big hit here. And then
Yeah,
EMF, I mean, Unbelievable, I think was a number one hit on the Billboard pop
yeah,
charts, which
yeah,
is,
yeah. It
and
was.
then I don't know if they ever had another hit after that. It's been a while since I've done that story, but I could probably do it more. I think EMF or Jesus Jones, one of them responded to my video and they were like, we're
Yeah,
still around.
yeah. No,
And
we've spoken to them on the podcast. They're all lovely guys, and yeah,
yeah, I
they
hope
speak
people
quite
don't
good things.
I hope people don't conflate. Sometimes when I do these, whatever happened to, people conflate it as like a negative thing, and I
No,
don't
no, no.
mean for it to come across that way. It's just more of like my own curiosity, like whatever happened to those
Yeah,
guys,
yeah,
because like
yeah.
I don't hear, because just through my own like ignorance, I haven't like been following them throughout
Oh,
their
no,
entire career. But
I
it's like the
mean,
story of tell.
they're all quite open about, they had their sort of 5 minutes. They still play, but they're never going to have, well, they might, but they're probably never going to have that sort of huge success again. And they're quite open about that. They're quite happy with just that it happened.
The one thing I remember about Unbelievable about that story was that Andrew Dice Clay, the comedian, I mean, he was big in like the early '90s.
Yeah.
They had to go to, I think, Def Jam, that clip that they use in the song, they had to like go to Def Jam's office, I think, and get clearance for that clip. Like I remember
Yeah.
them having to like do it, something like last minute they had to go do it. And that's the one thing that sticks out about that song is the Andrew Dice Clay little sample they use.
Yeah. 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 No, it's a great song. It's a great song. Um, Other sort of British bands you spoke about, Elastica, Stone Roses. So you have covered quite a few. You say you haven't done many
Yeah,
British bands.
Elastica I
You've
did
done
a
quite a
while
few.
back. Stone Rose, I was actually thinking of like doing an updated video on Stone Roses, but more talking about the early years. But I remember some of the comments people said is that the video was kind of done from an American perspective, I mean, a lot of the source material for that video was
Well,
probably like American papers, like LA Times,
yeah.
and I don't know how much the New York Times covered them, but it was most of the sources that I do use are like American sources because those are the most easily available. I
Yeah, of
wish there was
course.
like a
Makes
I wish
sense.
there was like a library, and maybe there is, of like all the melody makers and sounds and
Yeah, there must be
those
somewhere.
there must be somewhere like a week like a
Yeah. Yeah, that's what
I
Enemy would be a good source.
Enemy. I wish there was like a. I'm sure. I mean, Enemy is still around, right? They
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
have somewhere you can get.
I think it's just online now, but or Luke was saying I think they do like a hard copy again. But yeah, yeah, they must have archives somewhere, I'm sure.
Maybe I should email them and be like, hey, can I pay to get your guys' archives or
Just
something? Like, or
I've got 500,000 subscribers. Give me some info. It'll be fine.
yeah, like I wish if those were around, I'd be using those too. Actually, one band I did find some old Enemy articles was the Sundays because somebody had saved them and scanned them.
All right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was able to go read that, but most of the time it's just American, Canadian. There are some British ones I do find from time to time, but yeah, I mean it is going to be written from an American perspective. So like it's kind of
Yeah, of
interesting to
course.
see what like I mean the Stone Roses, I mean, were huge back in the late '80s, early '90s. So then it's so sad they had that 5 year gap where they were dealing with their label and all the litigation and stuff, and then trying to go to Geffen, and then their second record, came out, and you know, they probably waited so long that the music scene had changed so much that
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Um, I've kept you a really long time, so we're going to sort of end this soon. But where do you want people to find you? Mainly through the YouTube channel, or have you got other social media?
I'm on TikTok too, but I don't really use it. In TikTok, supposedly it's going to be banned any day now. Whatever the States does with TikTok, Canada will probably follow with banning it. And but I just YouTube, I just post my videos on YouTube and
Yeah, it's
rock
good.
culture stories. And
It's a really good channel. I'm not just saying that. I love going on there
thank
and
you,
having a look. Yeah,
thank you.
that's why I got you on because yeah, I've spent quite.
It
It's
was
a
it
bit of
was
a
kind of
rabbit
weird.
hole
I,
that
I
channel.
went. I took my daughter to go buy like a new bicycle at like one of the stores near here, and I was just
Yeah.
like, talking to her, and then like some guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, do you have a YouTube channel by any chance?" And he's like, "I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if it was you, but like I watch your channel." And I just said, oh, it was just it's nice when people are like, oh, it's like, they like the stuff. And
That's
I
cool.
think I think the biggest thing is I don't want to, I do a lot of bands that I'm not necessarily a fan of, but I just want to tell their story.
But
And
that's
I
all
try
right.
not to like let my opinion I just want to tell the story and people can debate amongst themselves, what they like or how the band makes them feel, or maybe it brings back a moment. And, now I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in Canada, like I feel like I hear so many people are struggling, like, just to make ends meet and
Yeah,
live.
yeah, of
If
course.
my channel can
For a lot of people.
yeah, it's the same here too. Canada's not what it used to be, sadly, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's like if my videos can help you take you out of that shitty thing you're
Yeah,
dealing with.
that's it. That's what we love. A bit of nostalgia, a bit of escapism. It's all good. And you come across as really genuinely into music, which is it's like you say, you didn't really start the channel off to be hugely successful. You just did it because
No,
you're into
if you would have
music.
told me, I would have had 500,000. Like I think it took me a year to get my first 100,000 subs, and
Hmm.
yeah, I mean it was like I still have a hard time believing people are into the channel. I just feel like YouTube is very insular. It feels like because you don't meet the people who are watching your videos mostly. I mean, it's just like these people, strangers online, but it
Yeah.
feels very insular. It's like when I'm writing a story and I'm like, I'm just kind of writing it for myself and people can
Yeah,
watch
no,
it. That's what.
that's the best way, man. Do it for
But I'm
yourself.
glad I spoke
If
to you
other people
because
like it.
I'm glad I spoke to you because now I got like, oh, placebos should be on my list to like do another
Yeah,
story on
yeah,
them, and then
definitely
like more of
placebo.
the Britpop stuff. And I think the one thing is I think the thing that's daunting is like some people are like, you should do this band. Like Nazareth is a band that people have brought up a couple times,
Yes.
and I probably haven't done enough 70 stuff, but I look at their discography and they have, oh my God, they have so many records,
Well,
and I'm like, how do you
yeah,
do a story on them?
we have the same. No, but we do have the same thing on our channel. Like we cover or speak to a lot of members of bands that people are fiercely passionate about, right? And I get it, people have their bands and you want to do it justice, but you're inevitably not going to cover everything, and that's the we always
Yeah,
say we're not experts. We're just starting
yeah.
a conversation sort of thing.
Yeah, and 311's like one of the like 311's got a lot of albums, but I'm like, you know what? Instead of doing a whole history on them, let's just start with the record that broke them and their early history, and then maybe if people are in, maybe we'll can slowly start doing the other albums, and then it's the same for any other band. Like Faith No More is not too bad because they don't have a ton of records, but I mean
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
these bands are like so many albums, and it's like how do you do it justice?
Fucking
Like
hell. Imagine if you did
Queens
one
of
on
this,
Iron Maiden. They got about
yeah.
500 albums.
Yeah, or if you did one on like the Rolling Stones, like their entire
Yeah, yeah,
career. Actually, it's funny. A coworker of mine, he flew to Vancouver's about an hour flight from where I am. He went and saw the Stones recently, and I
yeah.
was like, man, I'd love to have seen the Stones, but yeah, I mean, if
Don't
you
know
had
if
to story on them, it would take you forever to
I don't
go
know if
through
you
all
want to
that.
see them now, mate. I saw them about 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, and they were old then. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know.
You see, he said Mick Jagger's like 80, and he's running across the stage still, like he's young, and
Yeah,
Keith Richards somehow still alive,
yeah.
still doing it. So
Well, they got a
I would
fresh
have never.
drummer, I guess. So
I would have never guessed Charlie Watts would have died the first out of
no,
all
no,
those
no,
guys.
no, no. Yeah. Anyway, man, thanks so much for coming on. I'm going to
Yeah, thanks
stop
for having me
recording,
on.
but don't go anywhere.
Sure.
We'll have a quick
Sure,
chat
sure.
afterwards. But yeah, yeah, thanks so much. Been a real joy.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Just So there we go, Sid from Rock and Roll True Stories. So thanks so much for coming on. Really enjoyed that chat. Love your channel. So just keep doing what you do. If you are new to the Stupid and Contagious podcast, then please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, listen to us on iTunes or on any of the major podcast platforms. We're there. So go and find us there and tune in each week where we talk to members of indie bands, grunge bands. There's an interview of Roddy Bottom, EMF, Jesus Jones. There's loads of stuff on there. So go and listen to the back catalogue. It's a really friendly group. Join the Facebook group. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to have some more sort of Canadians, Americans, people from that side of the Atlantic listening to our little podcast. We're trying to grow it. We're all into our sort of grunge music and we were around at that time. So yeah, come and join the crew and let's grow the podcast and get more of your favorite artists on. And if you've come here to the Rock and Roll True Stories channel from Stupid and Contagious Podcast, and do subscribe to Sid's channel. He's got some really cool videos coming up soon. So, and go and have a look at his back catalogue. There's loads of cool videos on there. That's it for me. I'm contractually obliged to use Dave's catchphrase at the end of this. So see you in a minute.